Maya is a very customizable program, and that includes the interface. Now, we can change the interface by going into Preferences. So, if I want to, I can go into Windows, Settings Preferences, Preferences, and that brings up my Preferences menu. I can also get into this menu from the interface by just clicking here on Animation Preferences. Now, however you get into this window, you need to go up to the top to Interface, and this is where we start changing what the interface looks like. Now, the first option here is really just your main menu set. So, if I want to, I can change from modeling to rigging to animation, and that's mirrored here. But I also can turn off major parts of the interface. So, if I wanted to, I could turn off the main menu. And that gives you a little bit more real estate. So if you're used to using the hotbox or something, you might not need that top menu. We can also turn off the menu in our panels. So if you don't really need that in your viewport, you can turn that off. And you can also turn off the panel toolbar. And so that's a really nice way to get yourself a little bit more screen real estate. I'm going to go ahead and turn those back on. We can also remember the size and position of all of these windows. And we can also turn on or off highlight what's new in release. So notice how some little green boxes come up here. And that's because we've got some new features. So if you have a new version of Maya, you might want to turn that on just to see what's new. Now, if we go down to the bottom, we have an important one for people who are using high DPI displays. And that's the interface scaling. By default, it's scale the interface using the system setting. But if you want, you can use a custom scaling. So you can zoom into Maya if you want and make the interface bigger on a higher DPI display. And that will basically make your menus bigger. I'm going to go ahead and leave this on the default. Now, if we go over here to UI elements, we can turn on or off major parts of the interface. So I can turn off, say, the status line or the shelf or the time slider or the range slider. Notice how I'm kind of reducing all of the different things in my interface so I have more screen real estate in which to work. So just depending upon what you're doing or not doing, you may want to turn things off. If you're not animating, you really don't need the time slider. And then at the bottom here, we can save all of these panel layouts with the files. So if you have a specific layout that works for that particular scene, you can go ahead and save it. Now, another one that's really important is help. Now, at the beginning, when you're first using Maya, help is very important. But as you start to get more familiar with it, you may want to turn off certain parts of the help system. Probably the most important one is the in-view messages. So if I were to say left click over here and highlight this viewport and say change to wireframe by hitting 4, notice how this big menu comes up. Now sometimes that can get in your way. It's a little bit distracting. You might not want it. So you can turn that off here. So if I turn that off, then when I change my view style again by clicking 5 or 6, you don't see it. And typically I like to keep that off. Another one is pop-up help, and that's called display toolclip. So if you hover over an option, it will bring up a little tiny help option, and you can turn that on or off. So these are some of the ways to customize how Maya looks. So as you start working in Maya, you'll understand what you need and what you don't need. So just understand that you can turn off those things that you don't need.